I have a video of my lions, not my lions, but the one I helped keeping, where I hung the lamb up like about 3 meters in the air, and the lions had to jump 3 meters. And I'm quite good at tying knots, so they could not pull the sheep down or the lambs down, so they were hanging in them while eating them because they had to rip off pieces of flesh. So we are stimulating the most amount of muscles that we can. If you have to go into the giraffe enclosure, you never go more than 3 meters from the giraffe, because if you go into 3 meters range of the giraffes, they are capable of kicking you by accident. And even by accident, a kick in 3 meters from a giraffe is lethal in almost all cases.
What was your dream job as a child? I think for many of us listening to this podcast, zookeeper would come up very commonly. I think as a child, just the idea of being able to work with lions and giraffes and tigers and reptiles and snakes and everything else is something that, you know, many of us would have romanticized, because not actually thinking about what the job entails, but just the concept of being surrounded by incredible animals is a dream. And today I'm speaking to Malthe, who is a Danish zookeeper, and he's actually in the process of finishing off his education. He has about a little less than a year to finish off becoming an official certified zookeeper in Denmark. And in this episode, we discuss what that's like, what it's like going through the education system. You'll find that if you are an American or even a Canadian, the Danish post-secondary school system is very, very different, and especially on the financial basis, so you might find that quite surprising. But in the episode, he talks about what it's like to be a zookeeper, what the day-to-day entails, and he also shares some incredible stories of just the animals that he gets to work with, whether it's the lions or the fur seals or the giraffes, and just this is an episode that will make you want to be a zookeeper if you're someone that has a passion for animals, which I'm sure you do since you're listening to the show. But more importantly, he really gives us the true picture of what it is to be a zookeeper. So if you're somebody that's really kind of contemplating whether or not that's a path you want to actually go down, this will be a great episode for you to help you determine that. I think that's all I'm going to say for this episode. Enjoy the conversation, and I will catch you afterwards. This episode is sponsored by Zoomed and their Creatures Roly-Poly Kit. This is a complete isopod habitat that includes a well-vented enclosure, soil, leaf litter, cork, food, and even calcium to allow these little guys to continue to build their strong exoskeletons. If you're looking to either build a colony of isopods for your enclosures, for their cleanup crew, or even just want a highly interesting, engaging, small kind of desktop pet, then you're going to want to hear more about this, and I'll tell you more about it later on in this episode. This podcast is all about improving your reptile husbandry. However, I know not everybody has the time or the money to go out and spend thousands of dollars doing custom builds. Thankfully, friend of the podcast, Josh Halter, aka the BioDude, is working hard to make better care more accessible. He makes turnkey bioactive kits for leopard geckos, ball pythons, tortoises, invertebrates, dart frogs, and the list continues to grow. He has spent years testing and perfecting these handcrafted substrates and dietary supplements to create the most effective products. If you visit thebiodude.com, you will see he is a proud supporter of both USARK and responsible reptile keeping, and there is an option to donate to either at checkout. Awesome. Well, Malthe, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really looking forward to it. It's always great to chat with folks who have a different perspective, and I think you're the first. You know what? You might be the second Dane to be on the podcast, actually. I think
really?
Okay. One of the very first episodes I recorded was with it's another name, Alarike, I think is how you maybe pronounce it. She has a YouTube channel and she's a reptile keeper as well. That was like one of the first episodes, but that was literally probably 8 years ago now. So it's been a gap since we've had someone from Denmark on the show. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to chatting with you. Why don't you give everybody just a little bit of your background, maybe animal keeping background, but also kind of where you're at professionally.
Yeah, so I'm Malthe. I'm working as a zookeeper in a small but not that small zoo here in Denmark. Enjoying my work a lot. I grew up with animals all my life, as any person listening or watching this podcast. I think that's about it.
What did you start keeping animals at a young age? Like what did you get into initially?
I had my mom got budgerigars when I was 2 years old, and they always fascinated me. And I have a picture of me when I was 2 years old holding one of the budgerigars because they were tame. And you could see in my eyes that this was going to be the passion of me. And my mother always said that she knew this was going to be my road forward. No pushing it. She was just not pushing me, but just naturally felt to it anyways.
So that was always your vision, like going through high
Always.
school and getting into
Always.
secondary school or post-secondary.
Exactly. Yeah. Always. So I had a dream. So I love reptiles. Reptiles are one of my favorite types of animals. But I was not allowed to get any reptiles because my mom is very, very afraid of them. And the rule was always at 12 years old, you're old enough to have one reptile. Mm. And then ever since I got told that when I was about 6 years old, 12 has always been my favorite number. So at 12, awesome. At my birthday, I bought myself a bearded dragon. Kept it how you kept the bearded dragon so long ago, with what I'm now realizing is the wrong kind of UV and the wrong kind of diet, not enough supplements, all that stuff that you get along the way. But we all start somewhere, and I think a lot of us started this way.
Yeah. So then when you were going through those, years in high school and whatnot, and knowing that you had this vision or passion with animals, did you have an idea of what career you wanted to pursue, or was it more general?
I was kind of in a split between three things. So I have three major hobbies that I interest in a lot, and I used a lot of a time thinking about which one of my hobbies I wanted to become my work. Because when it goes from hobby to work, it's a big change. Mm-hmm. So you have to be certain of that change. And I tried something that was not completely me. I found out very fast that this was just a hobby. I grew kind of bored of it fast as a working profession, and then I fell back into animals as I always do, and that was the perfect choice. I love what I do.
So can you talk to us a little bit about like zookeeping in general? Like when you say that you decided like animals were going to be your thing to pursue, was it zookeeping that you were directed towards, or was there even more of a broad idea than that?
In the beginning, it was very difficult for me because my favorite animals have been reptiles, as I said before, and parrots. I love parrots. I think they're amazing and they're so intelligent and impressive and interesting to work with. So in the start, I started by a lot of keepers here in Denmark and helped a lot of my friends by training them. And I watched a lot of videos and took a course here in Denmark on training parrots and trained a lot of them. And I actually thought in the beginning that I was going to be a speaker on training and behavioral problems in parrots or dogs or cats and just some regular home pets. But then I kind of fell into becoming a zookeeper. One of my very good friends from when I was 5 years old, so almost like my brother, he became a zookeeper straight after high school, directly into zookeeping business. And I always kind of envied him for doing it. But I was kind of afraid of doing it myself because it's a very big leap and not that much education goes into you. So if you get out of the zookeeping business, you don't have a guaranteed job anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So I went to college for architecture and design, which was very boring and not at all what I wanted to work with for me personally. But yeah, then I kind of said screw it and went for it. And it worked out perfectly.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta not take necessarily, like sometimes the safe road is a boring road that is actually not the safe road because you can't muster up the courage or not the courage, the actual interest in doing the design and the architecture work and doing what seems like a risk is actually the right thing to do. So what does it mean to become a zookeeper in Denmark? Like you said, there's not a huge education package that goes along with that. Does that mean that you can just apply for a job and become a zookeeper, or is there things that you had to do education wise?
So it's in Denmark. It's a very I think it's I think it's about 5 countries that have this specific education as a zookeeper. So it's a specific education just for zookeepers, and you can diverge out to if you want to be a farmer or a someone who works with fish industries or someone who works in zoos in zoology. And the zoology one is very, very difficult because Denmark is not that big of a country for those people who don't know. So there's not a lot of zoos here to get an apprenticeship in. So it's kind of like an apprenticeship, but it's the Danish version of an apprenticeship. So I go to school about 2 months a year where I get some hard facts and a lot of knowledge, and I love the school system here. And then afterwards, I go out and keep on being a zookeeper to get like practical. So not any teaching always, but a lot of just work in between, and then 2 months of teaching.
Yeah, that would be very similar to, at least in here in Canada, our trade schools. Like if you want to be an electrician or plumber, you go to school for 4 or 5 months, and then you go do an apprenticeship for another 4 or 5 months, and kind of just flip-flop back and forth until you've done a few years of that, and you have your red seal or whatever. Okay, so how many years does that go on for until you're officially a zookeeper, or until you finish?
A lot of people take the road differently. So I went to college. And in my college, I had a lot of specific topics. What's it called?
Courses.
Courses, exactly. That pulled me through the education of zookeeping way easier, because I had it on a way higher level through college than zookeeping, which is kind of like a trade school. So I went through very fast. But a lot of people go through very, very, very tediously and slow for about 4 years and 2 months, I think it is. But I'm going to finish it in 3 and 8. 3 years and 8 months.
So how much do you have left?
I have not even a year left.
Okay.
So I'm almost finished. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. And so when you're doing do you get paid while you're at the zoo working, or is this you have to kind of oh, you do? Okay.
No, we get paid all the time. So our zoo pays a regular zoo pay. Salary, exactly. But when we go to school instead, we still get the salary for the school hours that we have in school, because we are still working technically to get better at our job.
Okay. So so you don't have to pay out of pocket for the school. No. You actually get paid to go to school.
Yeah, we do in almost every single school here in Denmark.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that'll be a very shocking thing for some people that pay $100,000 to get a degree here. Well, not in Canada, but in the States. Canada's a little bit better, but not that much better. I would like to know a little bit more. Just you mentioned Denmark is a very small country. Maybe you could just for those who aren't aware of how small it is, the population, and then how many like zoos are there? Yeah, you could Google it while I'm. I'm just wondering how many zoos are there that you have a potential to work at. Like you said, there's not a ton to choose from. So did you have to relocate to follow this dream, or was there something close to the area that you lived in? He's just Googling it, folks.
Yeah, give me a second. So Denmark is not that big of a country. We have just over, for 1st of January, it went through a counting of people. We have a smidge over 6 million people in all of Denmark. It's a very small country. Yeah, not that big. And for people wanting to be in the zoo business, we have 2 different types of students. We have Danish students, and then we have something called OPU. So it's a student that goes to school in Denmark, but the apprenticeship part is in another country. So if you get that part, it's more difficult to get to a job in Denmark afterwards, because now that I'm in the Danish zoo, I have a lot of connections to other Danish zoos, and because we are only, what I just Googled, 18 zoos in all of Denmark. So that's not a lot of people.
Yes.
I think last time we counted, we were plus minus a bit, about 350 zookeepers in all of Denmark working in zoos. So people know each other here, and everybody knows each other across the whole country. So it's a lot about having good connections.
Now, did you have to move to, like, I don't know, are you allowed to say what zoo you work at? If you're not, that's okay. But I'm curious, did you have to move cities to get closer to the zoo you apprentice at?
Actually, the first zoo that I ever applied to, I got. And I applied to 3 zoos, and I got all 3, but I chose the one which is in my hometown. I grew up in this zoo since I was like 2 years old. I have pictures of me and my dad standing together watching the fur seals being trained, and now I'm one of the guys training the fur seals, which is amazing. It's so cool. Yeah. But no, I didn't have to move that much for it. No, I'm allowed to say that I'm in something called Jyllands Park Zoo, which is very difficult to say for a lot of outside people. But the main part of Denmark is Jylland, and it's a park and a zoo. There's a Jylland Park Zoo.
Okay. And where is that? Like, is there what city might people recognize?
In Herning.
Okay.
So it's out on the west coast, but not quite on the coast. But it's out in the countryside.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I want to get into the actual zoo work in a little bit.
Yeah.
But before we do that, you also have some animals. I can see an enclosure behind you.
Yeah, I do.
And so you have some things that you're keeping at home as well. So I'd like to know what you're keeping.
So I just moved together with my girlfriend, who is also a zookeeper in a different zoo here in Denmark, which is amazing. But because we went to a smaller apartment, we had to cut down on on the species that we had. We had a lot of different types of species in a very wide range. But right now, I have a Mexican black king snake. I have a rough green tree snake. We have Kappa buckeye frogs, so a dwarf species of Vietnamese moss frogs in here, and then I have a dog and a cat.
Okay, are there regulations and rules with reptile keeping in Denmark?
So many regulations and rules. An example is my Mexican black king snake. I got him before August of 2022, which is very key point, because if you are not allowed to get one anymore. It is illegal. And if I ever had to get rid of my sweet boy here, I had to euthanize him, because they are illegal to change between people, because they are invasive in some part of Europe, and then you're not allowed to have it in all of Europe.
Yeah. The logic is just like makes no sense, right?
It doesn't. No.
So is it a white list that you guys have in Denmark? Like, is there just a list of species that you're allowed to keep?
Every Danish people can do this. Go into regelsæt.dk and look up animal keeping. And there's a full list of every animal that is illegal to have. And some of the big ones in reptile hobbies are crocodilians and the American alligator, which makes sense. There are only 3 species that we are allowed to keep, which is a dwarf caiman, a black caiman, and a South African dwarf crocodile, if I'm not quite, the very small ones. Mm-hmm. So 3 species. And then the big snakes, the big 5, we're not allowed to have. So the anacondas, the Burmese pythons, the carpet pythons we are allowed to have, but the reticulated pythons and the big ones, we're not allowed to have those. They are way too big, and they could be a potential danger to the individual. And we are not allowed to have any type of venomous snakes except for rear fang venomous.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you were a kid keeping, I don't know if you had anything else other than the bearded dragon, but just you also had experience working with the budgies and whatnot. Do you think keeping in private as a kid really influenced your decision to want to go into zookeeping?
I think it influenced it, but now being in zookeeping, it's so different. There's not even a single thing you can compare it to, except for the species. It's so different, and the way you work with it and the time you have with hands-on with the animals. When I work with about 20 animals a day, I don't have that much hands-on time with the individual animal, which can be the same for people with large collections. But people like me who had like 1 or 2 reptiles at a time, it's very different.
Yeah, I can imagine the way you think of reptile keeping as a 12-year-old boy is probably extremely different from the actual job, as everything else is. You know, like there's always you look through everything with a rose-colored lens and think it's going to be this great. And I'm sure there's amazing things about your job, but there's probably a lot of hard stuff about the job as well that's maybe not your favorite. So why don't we talk a little bit about the day-to-day? So I'm sure there's many people listening to this podcast that might want to get into zookeeping or in some capacity animal husbandry or keeping, captive management. What does your day look like as an average operation?
So a lot of my job is preparing to care for animals and cleaning. Mm-hmm. The actual part that is interacting with the animals and caring for the animals is so minuscule. It is it's almost funny to think about. So we have some donkeys as an example, which is a animal that our guests are allowed to interact with. I think I interacted with the animals 3 times maybe throughout the 2 years that I've worked at this zoo now. Because it's not really like a part of my routine going over and just sitting down and petting the animals that I think is nice, or the very cool snakes we have. We are not allowed to like just take them out for our own enjoyment. If we take them out, is for educational purposes or contact with guests. So not a lot of contact. It's just a lot of actually just the boring part of reptile keeping, which is cleaning.
Yeah. So is there specific animals that you're in charge of, or do you show up for work and somebody tells you these are the list of animals you need to connect with today?
So in my zoo, it's very different for every zoo, but in my zoo, I am working the same route of animals 3 months at a time. So right now I'm working with some Anoco Vatusis, which are some extremely large cows from the savannah in Africa, and giraffes and zebras and ostriches, like the African savannah animals, basically. It's what I'm working with currently. And I actually quite enjoy that because the cleaning work is way more than picking up individual, like small snake excrements. It's more of shoveling and actual physical work, which is what I enjoy a lot.
Mm.
But in private, I'm more of a reptile keeper.
Gotcha. Yeah. I guess if you're gonna work with the big animals, you gotta like shoveling.
It's a lot of shoveling. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's your workout for the day. You don't have to go home and do a workout.
No workouts. No, it's
shoveling.
just at work. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. And so when you like the education blocks for being a zookeeper, what sort of things do they cover? Like, people will listen to that and go, okay, you're just shoveling poop all day. Like, what did you need to do in school? Like, they show? Is it a course on how to shovel? I'm sure not. I'm sure there's lots of husbandry things and enrichment. So I'd love to know. Yeah, like what sort of things have you picked up?
Yeah. Okay. So there is a course on shoveling, how you shovel correctly for not breaking your back. Because when you're shoveling elephant excrements, which are extremely heavy, and they poop about 50 of these like bowling balls of excrements every day, and you have to shovel all of them. It's very important to keep yourself like in the straight body form. And it is a course, yeah.
Well, it's like shoveling snow when it's warm out, right?
Exactly, yeah.
It's so heavy.
Yeah, it's very heavy. So we have a few courses. So we just had one about half a year ago on terrariums, paludariums, and aquariums, where we learn everything there is to know about the spectrums of UV and vitamin supplements and the filter differences in saltwater aquariums and freshwater aquariums, and how to keep plants correctly in your vivariums. And we also got a company out here from Denmark who showed us how to build our own custom enclosures of terrariums and waterproof them and build them into vivariums and stuff like that. We have some training courses on how you train animals correctly. A lot of training specific things and what we want out of animals, which is in zoos the most natural behavior we can, which we don't call natural because they are not in nature, but as close to it as we can. And that is also a part of training without like an actual clicker or a whistle or a yes or no. You don't need treats to train animals always. We have some very specific type of feeding plans. So we learn a lot of math about how you measure metabolic rates and stuff like that on animals, and how you weigh them and convert the weights and the specific species to metabolic weights, and then how many calories are in a carrot compared to an apple, and how many can you feed of those to your big cows. Stuff like that.
How do you guys weigh your giraffes and things like that? How do you do that?
Yeah. So we have our giraffes, we have something called a squeezing box, I think it is in English, which so when giraffes need to go through surgery or anything like that, we have to put them down to sleep. But if giraffes lay down too long, they can die because too high blood pressure. So we have to stand them up while they are sleeping. So we have a squeezing box that squeezes them. Every time they walk through the squeezing box, there's a giant weight underneath that measures the weight of them, and then we note it down every day to make sure that the weight is fine. Because if an animal loses weight quickly, it is always a kind of sickness.
Yeah. At your zoo, are the patrons able to feed the giraffes?
No. So we are in Denmark trying our very best to get as far away from guests feeding our animals. Because we have had a lot of problems with guests feeding our monkeys a lot of bananas, which I don't doubt that the monkeys think are amazing. They love it. It's a lot of sugar, but it's so much sugar that they get a lot of digestive problems, and we actually had to euthanize one of them because it got so bad at one point.
Yeah. Well, I went to zoo at Palm Desert, so it's like near Palm Springs in California, and you were able to feed the giraffes, and you're feeding it like, I think it's like romaine lettuce or something, and it made me think about that. Like, I'm sure the zookeepers obviously have to account for how much they're getting from that, but it's also not. It's like you could overfeed a tortoise these like beautiful, nice green leafed vegetables because they're really meant to be digesting like kind of crude dry grass, and exactly. I just imagine that constantly feeding these giraffes all the time, $5 a bundle, is probably not the best for them.
Is not the best, no. So giraffes have a very, very specific digestive system, and they are very, very sensitive in their digestive system. So most of their feed comes from bark and leaves. So too much of the, what did you say it was?
Like greens, romaine lettuce.
Romaine lettuce. Stuff like that. Too much of that would give them a too much of a either acidic or what was it, the other one?
Basic,
stomach acid, and that would be bad for them in the long run. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and it was a great zoo, but it was one of those things where as I was doing it, I was like, how many of these bundles are you going to eat today? Exactly. Yeah.
But so I'd be curious to know. You talked about trying to replicate some natural behaviors, and despite the fact that you don't call it natural behaviors because you're not actually in nature. So I'd be curious about what are some things that you guys implement in. You can choose any animal if you want. That like, what are you trying to accomplish in captivity to make sure that the animals are thriving, or that do have a high level of welfare standard? They're not just pacing back and forth and whatnot.
So if we take the animal I work most with currently is the giraffes. And if we go out, if we take our standpoint on a giraffe, we have something like winches on a car hooked up to our ceilings, which is about 12, 13 meters high, our ceilings. And we wire up the long sticks that the leaves and the barks of, so they don't have to bend down too much. We can actually get them to standing up, which gets the bones in the neck and the back and the legs a way better posture, which doesn't hurt the giraffes. Also, they have to actually peel the bark of the individual sticks, which takes them a lot of time for eating because they got a lot of stomachs, just like cows, and they have to eat a lot. And always, because if they stop eating, the gases and stuff, it's a bad time. So they have to keep eating. So we have to feed them something that takes a long time to eat, and that it's a very big part of my day, making sure that the giraffes don't get too much food, but it takes them the longest time possible to eat.
Yeah, it's almost like you need to give and that's a great example because they actually do need to continuously eating to make sure their digestive system is working. But even other animals that aren't necessarily like that, you need to give them the things that you give them to do need to take them a long time so they're not getting bored, right?
Exactly.
Are the giraffes, like you're in Denmark, so you have a long winter. Are they inside?
Yeah, so we are very, very fortunate in my zoo and have a amazing giraffe stable, which they are completely capable of being inside of all year round if they wanted to. Here in the winter, the only time I let them outside is when the sun comes out nice and bright, or I very quickly just have to run around cleaning inside. It takes about half an hour, which is the most amount of time I would ever let them outside in the complete cold. But if it's a nice sunny day, they get the UV rays, and it's very healthy for them. And D3, which is the same in reptiles, it's very healthy for every animal to get a lot of sunlight.
Do you have any special lighting inside as well to replicate that, or as long as they're getting outside through the summer, you don't worry about it?
We get them outside as much as we can because natural light, there's nothing beating natural light. It's the same in reptiles. Nothing beats natural light, but we are trying our best. Inside we have some, if I'm not mistaken, we have LED grow lights for plants, which is not like a full UV spectrum, but it gives off some rays that makes the giraffes think that they are producing D3, and we give them the supplement for vitamin D and D3, stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Is I'm curious if the process of being at the zoo and your experience working there and getting the education has changed just the way you keep at home in your captive or in your private collection. Is there things that you do differently now?
A lot, yeah. So I think a classic example of it is people at home being very, very excited to handle pets, which I after now that I've been in the zoo business for a bit, I actually went away from that a lot. I noticed myself, my rough green snakes. So rough green snakes are a great example. They're from America, and they are not very handleable, and they die very easily from stress. And a lot of my keeping my rough green snake is watching it make decisions on its own, and watching it because it's an insect eater. So I'm allowed to feed it live because we're not allowed to feed live in Denmark. But I'm allowed to feed live in insects, so I can watch it hunt, I can watch it think, I can watch it smell around and try to mimic the leaves waving, even though it's in a terrarium. Yeah, I love watching my animals more than I love handling them now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that concept of I had a guest who verbalized this in a perfect way, and I'm forgetting what he said, but he was he's a keeper in Germany that works with horned lizards, and I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting his name, and he's probably listening to this right now, and by the time you've recorded 300 episodes, everything becomes a total blur. Yeah. But anyway, he had this term that he used, and it was basically like being as hands off as possible, and essentially making the animals as little aware of you as the keeper as possible. And he had a really elegant way of saying it, way more elegant than I'm saying now, but I thought the concept was cool. It was almost like you as the keeper are in the background pulling levers and switches and things, and the animals are completely unaware of what's going on, and as far as they're concerned, they're interacting with their environment. And he had this whole apparatus so these ants would funnel their way into the enclosure, and it would mimic this anthill, and that was coming from like a different contraption. And I just think that's a very interesting way of keeping. Of course, the only issue with that is when there are points in time in captivity where you have to interact with the animals, whether it's moving them or doing health checks and things like that. So are there things you do with the animals, maybe in your own collection or at the zoo, that they become accustomed to people being around them?
So the snakes that we have in our zoo, I have a list over here. That's why I'm looking over here. But I have a list of the reptiles and stuff we have in English, so I can keep referencing it. But we have, as an example, we have Burmese pythons in our zoo. You're not allowed to have that big of snakes in private in Denmark. So when people come see our Burmese python, they are in awe, because do snakes get that big? And they do. They get bigger than this even, because the Burmese pythons are not that big compared to the two next guys above it. But yeah, they are handled every day. So we have 4. We have 2 males and 2 females. They are in constant rotation. So we make sure it was very important for us not to have just one, because if this snake then is shed, no guests are allowed to touch it. Or if this snake was fed, no guests are allowed to touch it. Yeah. So it's very important for us to have multiple, if you can say it like that. We have them in very large communal enclosures, actually. So we have a very large communal enclosure with 4 Burmese pythons in it.
Oh, that's really cool. So they're all co-hab together.
They are co-hab, as well as our carpet pythons are also co-habs, and our regular corn snakes are co-habbed as well.
Can you talk a little bit about the setups that they're in?
So the Burmese pythons are this is in meters.
Go for it.
I'm so sorry.
People can do the math.
Yeah, it's about 9 by 2 meters in ground space, and then it's 3.5 meters in height, I do believe, for the 4 Burmese pythons.
Almost 30 feet long by about 6 feet wide by...
That sounds about right.
But 12-ish feet tall. So that's pretty big.
Sounds about right. Yeah, and then in each end, we have a full, normal, regular house door to walk through, one in each end, because if we have a guy in shed or one who just fed laying in front of the door, we can get into the other way.
That's smart. Yeah. You have a 100-pound snake sitting in front of the door. You can't open it.
No.
Yeah, that's cool. Is there anything about zookeeping in general that you think would kind of surprise people who just see it from the outside perspective, to think that, they have no idea how it works?
The thing that surprises the most of my friends or people that I know is how often I work. So if you think of Christmas Eve, where everybody is at home unpacking presents, I don't think my animals care a lot about Christmas Eve. I think they care about getting their food, and that's why I'm at work on Christmas Eve or on New Year's or on any holiday. Actually, I'm going to work all of this weekend as well. At 6 a.m. in the morning, I'm going to work feeding animals.
This episode is sponsored by ZooMed and their Creatures Roly-Poly kit. This kit is a complete isopod habitat that includes a clear, well-vented enclosure, leaf litter, eco-soil substrate, as well as cork bark. If you've ever kept isopods before, you know that they love to live underneath cork bark where it's normally nice and damp, and there's usually a high humidity microclimate beneath the cork that they absolutely love. The kit also comes with calcium. Isopods, is very crucial that they have calcium to munch on to make sure they have healthy exoskeletons and continue to go through healthy molting cycles. Isopods are a very fun little pet, even if you want to just have them as a pet. There's so many different species that you can look into. They are a great place for kids to start if you're looking to get a child into pet keeping, but also adults. I know tons of people that keep isopods as pets, or maybe you're looking to start your own colony to bolster the cleanup crew in your bioactive enclosures. There is so many different reasons why you might want to have isopods in your life, and if you do, make sure you check out ZooMed's Creatures Roly-Poly kit for everything you need, from the enclosure to the care guide and more. For more information on this or any other ZooMed product, make sure you head to zoomed.com or check out the link in the show notes or the YouTube description. Yeah, that's the thing, right? There is no days off. You have to have enough zookeepers to make sure some of the zookeepers get a day off, but the zoo doesn't get a day off.
No, there's always someone at the zoo.
Yeah. I've listened to people who are zookeepers and they have that like anxiety of leaving doors unlatched. And do you ever have that where you're driving home? And
we have
like,
a lot of problem with that. It's not a healthy of a problem to have, but a lot of people have it. Yeah, my zookeeping friends have it as well, where they think, oh my God, did I remember to lock the lion enclosure? And they have to drive back to the zoo to make sure, because it's so frustrating. They can't even sleep at night for it.
Yeah. That would be terrifying. Now, as far as for you, you don't have to tell us how much money you make or potentially will make, but it's a pretty classic trope in America and Canada that if you're a zookeeper, you're basically living off of like beans, because the salaries are pretty low. Is that similar in Denmark, or are the salaries okay to kind of get by?
The salaries are very low for Danish standards, but for Canadian and American standards, they are high. Yeah. But they are low for Danish standards. Yeah. So in Denmark, we are not getting paid too much. So as an apprentice, every single school time I've been to, I'm going up in pay because I learn. In quotations, I learn more and I'm more capable, so I'm allowed more pay. But we are not paid too much. No, not by Danish standards. No.
Yeah, I guess that's just the nature of the business. It's an expensive operation to run, and you're the only cash flow is patrons coming in.
Yeah.
And paying admissions and whatnot.
50.
Okay. Yeah.
50,000.
So, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes perfect sense. And I think in the States you might see something like 40.
Okay.
That's just a random guess. So you might make it's a little bit more, like you said. So you're not quite as. But the thing is every zookeeper doesn't do it for money. Obviously, you're doing it for the passion, and you get to enjoy it.
Passion, yeah.
If I would love to know like what your favorite part of your job is and what your least favorite part is.
That's a good question. 90% of the time, I love my job. I think the worst part of my job is rain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just dealing with the weather.
Weather changes are horrid. So in December, I had a day where I was running around caring for animals, working at -20 Celsius. And that's very, very cold. And it's a very big problem for our water troughs and stuff like that, because they freeze over instantly almost.
You guys have heaters in them, I'm sure.
In some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
In our big like cattle and stuff like that, they break holes themselves with the horns and stuff like that. So they don't need it. So it's a waste of money. Keep pushing heat out there. But a lot of them have.
Yeah, the cold does always make things less fun. It
does. Yeah.
It is harder to, especially like we were talking off air, just the darkness of winter. Darkness and -30 Celsius is always a sad day.
It's a very bad day.
But that's just how it goes. As far as what about record keeping? Like, is there lots of record keeping that you have to do? Is that your responsibility as well?
No, it's not my responsibility as an apprentice. We have if you want a zoo in Denmark, it's a legal requirement to have a biologist on site.
Okay.
And it's the biologist most of the time. It's their work to keep like records of every animal that went in, went out, died, how it died, when it died, what it died of, even, because not the same as how it died. And they are doing that through a system called The Sims. Not The Sims as in the video game The Sims, because it's Sims with a Z as in zoos, where we keep records of all of it. And we can actually, a lot of American zoos does it as well, and Canadian zoos as well, where we can actually go online. Everybody can do, I can do it right now. Go on and see every animal that this zoo has, how it is doing, what it weighs, everything about it. And also on there, we can go in and say, this year we got a giraffe calf, and we do not have the space to keep another giraffe. If people need it, come take it.
Okay, that's cool. So that's not something that's like publicly accessible. I'm sure that's just within the zoo.
No, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then, does your zoo have? Is there a specific, like the zoo we have here in Winnipeg in Manitoba, because we are far up north as well, and so the focus, or I would say like the flagship enclosures have to do with a Churchill replication, which is basically replicating the Arctic. So we have a bunch of polar bears and Arctic wolves and these sort of things. So it's like this really kind of unique experience, and the rest of it is interesting as well. But that's its focal point for the zoo. Does your zoo have like a main focus that's kind of the flagship piece?
So we're not that big of a zoo, as I said, but we do have one animal which we take very much pride of, which is our South African fur seals, which is a very, very rare type of seal from the southern part of Africa. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. And we are the only park in all of Denmark to have these. A lot of people in Denmark have Californian sea lions, but these are not sea lions. These are fur seals, which in Denmark is very, very, very weird to say, because they're called sea bear and not sea lion. But it's almost the same in Danish. But we take a much pride in those. We train them a lot. It's a lot of training with them because they are very intelligent, and we have to keep them stimulated. And they stimulate a lot by hunting, but we are not allowed to feed live, so we have to stimulate them otherwise. So we train them every day, 2 times a day, all year round.
Okay, that's cool. So that's something people got to go see if they go to that zoo.
Yeah, indeed. We have it almost everywhere. We have the times, because it's fixed times when we train, so people can come. We have like microphones on and speaking about the animals, and we can do it. We do the speaking English a lot of the time as well.
Okay, cool. And then, you have this experience with both the captive or the private industry and the public with the zoos. Is there areas you think that the zoos are doing much better than the private keepers, like the hobby will say, and vice versa? Like what can the hobby reptile keepers learn from what people like yourself do at public institutes?
I think if people watch your podcast a lot, like I do, a lot of the episodes are about the same thing. It has been it was a period of time where you talked a lot about communal enclosures. And I think my personal opinion, that is not a zoo opinion, doesn't come from my zoo, but my personal opinion is that communal enclosures are so enriching for all animals, even if they are not a social animal. Don't keep a king snake with anything. I'm not saying keeping animals that eat animals are a good thing, but Burmese python, I see our Burmese pythons running around not running, but going around all day together always. And right now we just redid our enclosure for our carpet pythons. So for a moment, about a month, we had to have our carpet pythons in with our Burmese pythons, and that's
interesting.
It was very interesting. It's a weird mix, but it worked out perfectly. And the carpet pythons interacted with the Burmese pythons, but you always saw our two carpet pythons laying together on like a ledge or something, and our Burmese pythons always laying together over here, because they are very communal, even though they are not a social species by like the metrics.
The best part about providing high-quality reptile husbandry is you get to develop a long-term relationship with your animal. Meet Jackson, my 18-year-old crested gecko. Jackson lives on the BioDude's Terra Fauna substrate, which is one of their substrates that's specifically designed for warm biomes and humidity spikes. Like all other BioDude substrates, it contains organic content to help support the plant life in Jackson's vivarium. It also holds moisture very well, which means humidity is never an issue, even in my dry climate. Another favorite of mine is the BioDude's Bug Grub. This is a supplement powder are made from natural ingredients like carrots, beets, spirulina, oats, and potatoes. Everybody knows how important gut-loading feeder insects is, and this simplifies it for me and allows me to be confident when I feed both Jackson and my tarantulas that they're getting the nutrients they need to thrive. Also, if you have a lot of babies right now, this is a great way to help fortify the diets of neonatal reptiles. The BioDude has a ton of great educational content on both his YouTube channel and the website, all about bioactive care, and it's just one of those brands that's doing their part to push herpetoculture into a positive direction and give reptile keeping a better name. Yes, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think because you keep it, like you look at fish keeping and things, obviously this is a fish keeping, mixing species is just part of the hobby. That's a normal part. You do that, and it goes wrong often, but it's not as big of a, maybe it's not as painful when it goes wrong. You know, you have a fish die and then you go get a different one, but it can maybe be a little bit more violent when it goes wrong with reptiles. And I think so many people have done it wrong in the past that it's made people think that it should never be done. But I think, like you said, like if you're thinking about it logically and providing the space, it can be a really enriching experience for the animals. There's so many animals that do really well communally, and they interact with each other and they feed off of each other, not literally, but feed off each other, you know, energy wise. And I think there's a lot to be done there. And zoos, it's funny because you could walk in, somebody could post a video on YouTube or Facebook of a co-hab setup and they'll get destroyed online. And then you could walk 10 feet down the block and go to a zoo that has the same setup and people find it amazing because they think that it's, I don't know, for some reason it feels different when it's in a professional setting. But I think if done right, people can really have some really interesting setups. Yeah,
I think mixed species setups are the most amazing thing that you can almost do to any species. So I have a plan going forward, and I think it's going to work. I've heard that it's a very common setup in the UK because I have my rough green snake, which is it's a rare snake to have here in Denmark. Not a lot of people have them. And then I have my Mexican black, which you are not allowed to keep in Denmark. So I have two very rare snakes, but I'm wanting to keep my rough green snake with green anoles and white-lipped tree frogs.
That'd be cool.
Because they are found communally together in the same locations, usually around, and they should not eat each other.
Yeah, I think that would work. I mean, there's lots of like little garter snake setups that have similar vibes to that, and I think provided the space, that's just an interesting setup to be able to walk up to, especially something like green anoles that are going to be active all the time and they're going to be out, and diurnal, and I think that would be cool.
I think it would be cool because the green anoles would be diurnal and my rough green snake is diurnal, and then all through night I have the frogs making calls and stuff like that. It's a 24-hour watch enclosure.
Yeah, that's cool. And what about opposite? Is there anything that you think that the private hobbyists do better than the public?
Than the zoos, I'm assuming.
Yes, the zoos, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, because a lot of you hire the zookeeper on what he's good at. So I enjoy reptiles and parrots, which I've said many times now. But I'm hired on the fact that Malthe, he knows reptiles and he knows parrots very well. And we have other keepers in our zoo. We have a guy who the thing he knows better than anyone in the whole of our zoo is any type of cattle. And he knows it so well that it blows my mind. He can look at a cattle from a mile away and say, watch the right leg before it gets to a limp. And it's so cool. So what I'm trying to get at is that the private sector is amazing at specializing themselves in what they enjoy, and I think zookeepers are forced to kind of need to have a broad perspective of what we enjoy.
Yeah, I see what you're saying though. But the zookeepers are brought in, they already have this level of expertise that would be very similar to what they'd be doing if they weren't zookeeping. That particular keeper might have a farm of cows or something that he was doing.
Yeah,
anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for somebody who's listening to this that thinks they might want to pursue zookeeping in some capacity?
I would say think about it very thoroughly, because zookeeping or herpetoculture or any kind of pet keeping as a hobby is amazing. It's the best hobby that there is if I had a say in it. It becomes very tedious and it's not a hobby if it's your work.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's something you're very, very much like burning for, just if you're going into it thinking that you're never going to touch an animal ever again, you're on the right path. If you touch an animal, it's lucky for you, but go into it thinking you're never going to touch an animal.
Mm. Yeah, if you're going into it to think you're gonna cuddle the cute animals, it's not gonna be that.
No. And then we have our lions that are extremely, extremely cool, and I love training with them. And they are so intelligent animals, and the way that we activate them to keep their hunting genes, what's it called?
Behaviors.
The behaviors, exactly. Hunting behaviors stimulated is very fun. But I've touched a lion once, which was a dead lion that had to be euthanized because of cancer. So keep in mind, you don't touch. It's hands off almost every animal.
Yeah. Okay, I have two questions about two of those things that you just brought up. The first would be the hunting. I want to talk about the hunting in a second, but first, dealing with death is another thing that any hobbyist is related to, can relate to as well. I imagine in the zoo it may even be on a bigger capacity because you have animals that they're also, not only are they the animal, but they mean something to the zoo. They mean something to the people that visit the zoo. It's a really big thing. Like when we have an animal, particularly a polar bear, if it passes away at the zoo here, it makes the news. It's a big thing, and everybody's kind of sad about it. So what is it like processing losing animals as a keeper?
It's not allowed to become a day-to-day thing. It's not allowed to become a regular thing, so you don't mourn your animals. But it's not my animals. But I get some kind of feeling that they are mine because I keep them every day. It's my responsibility. If they die of some natural cause, I am the natural cause. That is me. That is my mistake. And I was actually the one killing the animal, and I didn't even see it. So it's a lot of guilt more than it's mourning, if it makes sense.
Yeah, but that sounds horrible. how do you work with that?
You have to work with it in a natural sense. So I have never personally been in that situation, but it is a very, very horrible thing, and you have to be prepared for it before you even think about becoming a zookeeper. Is animals dying by accident, or animals you have to euthanize? Because I would never be able to feed my lions if I was not able to kill the cattle or horse that they were going to eat.
Right.
So it's a big part of my job, and it's never going to be a fun part of my job, but it is a part of my job. Yeah.
So then, as far as the hunting goes, maybe you could walk us through how do you stimulate hunting behavior in the lions?
So I recently, when I'm saying recently, we are recording this video about 3 days ago, I fed the lions. So I have some sheep that I keep, which are Cameroon sheep from Africa, because I'm a savanna keeper currently. And they had three little young ones, and they were males, all of them. And we can't have multiple males in an enclosure. That would go horrible. And they would try to mate everyone inside, even their own mom, because they are highly producing animals. So we had to euthanize them or lay them down. But they are amazing animals.
Do you guys do that? Like you have to do that personally?
Yes, I did that. Yes.
And how do you euthanize them?
So I don't know what it is called in English, but in Denmark it's kind of like a bolt pistol.
Yeah, okay.
So not like a gun, but like
it fires a pin into them. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Fires a pin in, and then we cut open the artery to make sure that it doesn't wake from the bolt, because it is a possibility that they wake again after getting the bolt. So we cut the arteries to make sure that they have no blood inside, so they cannot wake up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So then you take those lambs, and then what do you do with them to the lions?
So if it's a possibility, I have a video of my lions, not my lions, but the one I help keeping, where I hung the lamb up like about 3 meters in the air, and the lions had to jump 3 meters.
Wow.
And I'm quite good at tying knots, so they could not pull the sheep down or the lambs down, so they were hanging in them while eating them because they had to rip off pieces of flesh. So we are stimulating the most amount of muscles that we can.
That's very cool. Yeah, it's if you I'm not sure if you're willing to share that video. If you have that video somewhere,
I can.
We can pop
I
it
can.
into you could send it to me, and I'll make sure it gets into the episode so people can see that. That's one of those things where the power of an animal, it's almost like you can't comprehend it. I think humans, although there are very strong humans out there, we're relatively weak when it comes to what you can do. You know, if you even see a small, like 40-pound monkey, the amount of strength that they have to climb around trees and jump. Yeah, like we can't do anything that these animals can do. And to watch, is there any other things that come to mind as far as like feats of strength or things that you've seen animals do that just kind of blows your mind? If you'd like to get your hands on some exclusive Animals at Home merch and would also like to help financially support the podcast, the best way to do that is over at patreon.com/animalsathome. Once a Patreon member, you have access to me, you have access to the other listeners of the show, you can get early access to the episodes and even suggest topics for future episodes. Depending on the tier you sign up for, there's discount codes for the Animals at Home store, and also depending on the tier you sign up for, you will be sent stickers, posters, a t-shirt, and even a coffee mug once you've been registered under that tier for a certain length of time at no extra cost to you. That's just on the house as part of your subscription fee. But also the fees that you pay, or the subscription cost that you pay for Patreon, comes directly to me to help me run this show. The show is very expensive to produce, and every dollar that I get through Patreon goes directly back into either my time or just the equipment costs, the editing costs, and so on and so on. So if you are enjoying the show and you see value in it and you're gaining value from it and you have some extra dollars kicking around and you want to buy me a coffee each month, that really does go a long way. So again, patreon.com/animalsathome. The link is in the description. I'm incredibly grateful for all your support. Thank you very much. Enjoy the episode.
We have some monkeys in currently, which I'm not allowed to disclose the species of, but we have some monkeys in currently that we're trying to stimulate them because monkeys are very intelligent. You have to stimulate the brain so they can fidget with things, the same that humans, the children need to fidget with things as well. We have to stimulate that so much in these monkeys. And a big problem of them fidgeting with things are taking stuff apart, which includes the UV lamps that they think are so fun to take the screws out of. They find a stick and they screw them out of the ceiling and carry around these, and they are like brittle things.
Yeah.
They should not be running around with these, and not so much strength, but very, very intelligent is a big problem. We have a reindeer currently that tore up its arm on some ice on its water bucket, which is very sad. But our vet is helping it recover, and he's amazing. He's such a good vet. But we have to hold him while he gets his injections. And this tiny reindeer, I'm telling you, about like 1.20 meters maybe on the shoulders, is outpowering 3 of us full-grown men for holding him, just not even laying him down, just holding him back for not running through us. We are 3 men pushing him back. He's moving through us like it's nothing. He's not even trying.
That's amazing.
It's so cool.
Yeah, I remember years ago I had Franz de Waal on, who's famous primatologist. He just recently passed away, I think last year, and he told me about times where he would go into the chimp enclosures and play with the babies, like they're young chimps, and he said you would come out of that, like your clothes would be ripped up, your tie would be off, you'd be just completely like disheveled because these little chimps can just completely overpower a full-grown person without having any effort at all. It's just incredible.
Yeah. So we have a rule with our giraffes. So we as much as we can don't go into the giraffe enclosure, because giraffes are not inherently dangerous, but they are very easily frightened. And when they are frightened, they can become dangerous because they are reckless. Mm-hmm. So you never go, if you have to go into the giraffe enclosure, you never go more than 3 meters from the giraffe. Because if you go into 3 meters range of the giraffes, they are capable of kicking you by accident. And even by accident, a kick in 3 meters from a giraffe is lethal in almost all cases. And giraffes are they look very big, and many people on the podcast here will think that giraffes are extremely large animals, but they are very, very not that big animals. They are just tall. They don't weigh that much, not compared to a lot of other animals that are not that big. But they are extremely, extremely strong by accident. They don't have to be, but they are.
Yeah. It's kind of like horses. If you spook them and they're running, they run first and ask questions later. And
exactly. Yes.
They're going to run into fences or kick people. Like it's kind of always scary. So how much does a giraffe weigh then compared to? I mean, I imagine something like a rhinoceros would be a lot heavier because it's
a lot.
So what does a giraffe weigh?
So if I think some animals that people listening could relate to are probably a bull. A lot of people have seen a bull, and know what a bull is. And a bull is about 900 kilos in general, if I'm not mistaken completely. That might be on me, but I'm thinking it's about 900.
Right. In my head, I was thinking like 2,000 pounds, which would be about 900 kilos.
Yeah, fits about right. But our male giraffe, he's about 5 meters now, and he's a quite a big boy. His head is about the full size of my torso.
Yeah.
He weighs about 600 instead of the 900.
Wow.
Yeah, so they are very, very light animals, very agile animals, actually.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I mean, that's not really that much more than a big horse. I mean, a big horse might be 400 or 500 kilos, something like that.
Yeah.
And wow, that's impressive. So they're just light and thin, but long.
But very, very long, yeah. They look very muscular, but they are not that heavy,
Yeah, that's fascinating. Are there differences in whether it's zookeeping or reptile keeping in Denmark that you think are standout differences from what you have in your home country to what you see in North America, or America in general is probably most of what you're exposed to?
Yeah, America's probably the most we are exposed to because they are quite out there on social media. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think a lot of American zookeeping is a lot about the beauty of the enclosure and being sure that the guests can see the animals that they paid to come see. But a tiger that is visible more than 90% of the time, more than 80% of the time, is not a tiger that I would say is in good health, because the tiger needs to be hiding to it's almost like an introverted person. They need to go back, recharge their batteries, and then be able to come back out into the wild again.
Yeah.
So a lot of things I'm watching with the American enclosures is a lot about showing off the animals and making sure guests can see the animals all the time, which is not always the best thing. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not.
That's a fascinating observation. I think, I could definitely see there's and I don't want to insult Americans. There's a lot of Americans listening to this right now, but they would probably also agree with this. And this is not just America. It would also throw Canada into this. There's almost an impatience. Like if you pay for a ticket and you walk through a zoo and you don't see the animal that the picture is on the ticket, there's going to be a complaint filed.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to see the rhinos. The rhinos like the mascot of the zoo, and I couldn't even see them. Something like that. I could just see that becoming a problem. So I think you're totally right. And the beauty of the enclosures as well. There's some incredible zoos with some amazing setups, and there's some really clever ways enclosure designers have designed the enclosures in a way that allows the animal to still be visible, but maybe somewhat feel sheltered. But like I said, it's not 100% perfect. So at your zoo, for example, somebody could walk through the zoo and not be able to see an animal. Is that not an issue for the person that's paid the ticket? Like they don't really mind. It's a different mindset, maybe.
I think it's a different mindset from Danish people to further Western people. Old people here in Denmark, and when I say old, I'm not meaning like gray hair old. I'm just very young, so I mean like late adults to gray haired people. Are very, very. We did not see the animal. We want a refund. But many young people, younger people, don't even have to be young, are acknowledging. Okay, the rhinos did not want to come out today. That is completely fine. We'll come back again another day.
Yeah. I guess it is a mindset thing. You buy a ticket to the zoo hoping to see an animal, but if you don't, you just try again next time.
There's a lot of different animals.
Exactly. Yeah, you're going to see something. You're not going to
see something.
Not everything's going to be hiding.
No. We have an example is I gotta pull up the American English chart.
Sure.
Patas monkeys or Patas husari or hussar, which is a type of African monkey that is the fastest monkey in the world. They have 24-hour access to going back inside. So we have an inside enclosure and an outside enclosure because it's cold in Denmark. So they have the ability. They have 24 access to going back inside, but they choose to go outside and sit in the sunlight and bask and are able to be watched by guests. But they are completely able to pull away if they want to, and because they have the ability to, they don't feel the need to because they can do it if they want to. Mm-hmm. But they are visible 99% of the time.
Yeah, and your zoo is open during the winter, right? People can go.
No.
It's not open.
No. It's not. No, it's only open in the summertime because we have a lot of animals that are inside of winter staples throughout the winter.
Yeah, I think ours is closed in the winter too.
Yeah, I think in principle we could be open, but you would see 20% of the animals that you would see in the summertime. So it's not worth the ticket price. We don't get the amounts of guests that would pay for the amount of staff that would have to stand in the kiosks and the stuff like that.
Yes, yeah, it would. Yeah, financially doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you prefer when the zoo is closed because it's a little bit easier to work? Like there's less patrons walking around, or does it matter to you?
I think a common thing in all of zookeeping, I would almost go as far as saying I could speak on the behalf of all of zookeeping in Denmark. When the zoo is closed, you miss the guests. Mm-hmm. When the guests are there and the zoo is open, you miss the quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, there's probably like a 1 week transition where you're like, oh, it's great to have everybody back.
Amazing,
like, I can't wait till the zoo's closed again, and vice versa.
It takes about 1.5 times the time to care for the animals because you have to make sure that people move out the way so your cart can go through to go down and pick up the feces from this animal. And I'm sorry, but this animal has to go inside for about half an hour while I clean the outside of the enclosure, and people get annoyed of that if we have a lot of guests, stuff like that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think this really gives people a lot to think about. I mean, just even hearing your stories about talking about working with different animals, anybody that's passionate about animals or is even thinking that they might want to go into zookeeping, I think that's enough to just get like, you've sold me. That just sounds so fascinating. And but like you said, there's, it's not what you imagine when you're 12 years old. It's a lot of cleaning and more mundane work, but the fact that the mundane work is happening around these incredible animals makes it totally worth it, providing that you have the passion for them.
Exactly. If you have the passion for the animals, because not only the animals are exciting, but when I clean the giraffe staples, as I do, I find it as a complete insane nerd, I find it interesting the viscosity of their feces or how the urine smells contrasting to the day before, stuff like that. So even the cleaning is fascinating to me because I can figure out a lot about the care of my animals, and the fascinating part is caring for the animals and not the animals themselves.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really good way to put it. And that's that's sort of the sentiment you want keeping reptiles in your home as well, or amphibians or whatever else you're keeping, is the animal is like the cherry on top, but the actual whole package of being able to care for this being in your home and giving it this high standard of life is the reward.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there anything else that we didn't mention about zookeeping, or anything else that you're up to that you wanted to mention before we wrap up?
I don't know if there's. I don't think there's a. I think we went pretty well rounded.
Yeah. This was great. If people want to follow you or reach out to you, have questions for you, is there a place that they can find you? They on the internet?
More than welcome to hit me up on Instagram if they want to. It's kind of a weird name, so maybe just leave it in the description.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, because it's difficult saying Danish words in English, but yeah, just contact me on there if you any questions. Please.
Awesome. We'll make sure that's in the show notes for anybody listening. And if anybody has any questions about zookeeping or anything else, definitely reach out. And this was great. So thank you so much for being on the show today. It was my pleasure to have you on, and maybe we'll do another one in the future at some point once you're finished with zookeeping. If there's anything new that you can update us on, that would be great.
Indeed. I will.
All right. That is the end of that episode. Malthe, thank you so much for being on the podcast and sharing your story and bringing all that great information to the show. Listeners, if you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you share it on social media, Facebook or Instagram. That's always a big help. You can comment on Spotify or YouTube, and we will take a look at those comments and answer them when we can. And if you are interested in supporting the show financially, you can do that over at patreon.com/animalsathome, or head to animalsathome.ca/shop and pick yourself up an Animals at Home t-shirt or sweater. $5 does automatically get donated to the Amazon Rainforest Conservancy. And I think that is it for this episode, everyone. Again, thank you to Malthe for joining me on the podcast and sharing your story. Thank you to the listeners. Thank you for Liam for editing the podcast. And I will catch you in the next episode.